All right, hey everyone, Dustin here, founder of iPassMyBarExam.com and author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, The 7 Steps to Bar Exam Success. And I have a question for you, which you're probably wondering, when should you start studying for your bar exam? You know, the bar exam is an important time period. It's the pinnacle of your law school career. You'll spend several months studying, several even more months waiting for results. It's a big deal, obviously, as you know, and you're probably wondering, when should you start that journey of bar exam prep? You know, there's a time period that's too early to start, in my opinion, and there's a time period that's too late to start. And generally speaking, I think if you spend about 6 to 7 weeks studying for your bar exam, that's plenty of time. You know, even a jurisdiction like California, where the pass rate tends to be lower than other jurisdictions, 6 to 7 weeks really is plenty of time. And if you followed a lot of the tips I give in my book, The 7 Steps to Bar Exam Success, you probably could spend even less time, because that's going to save you kind of the struggle of figuring out how to go about and approaching the materials and approaching the bar exam. So my general advice is not to study too early, not to study more than 6 or 7 weeks out from your bar exam. And I'm going to give you 6 reasons why you shouldn't start studying too early. And then I'm also going to tell you what would be a good way to spend that early time studying, okay? So here's 6 reasons why I generally don't recommend you spend more than 6 or 7 weeks for your bar exam, okay? Number 1 is, it's not necessary. You know, in California, again, 6 to 7 weeks, plenty of time. It was plenty of time for me. It's plenty of time for a lot of people. It's just, generally speaking, it's not necessary. Now, there might be an exception for a couple reasons. One is, if you'll be working full-time during the bar exam, you may want to start studying a little bit earlier so you can get more material in. You're not going to have as much time during bar prep. Secondly is, if you have some kind of disability, like maybe ADHD or something like that, a lot of people have that going into the bar exam, and where you just can't focus as much during that 6 or 7 week time period, you may want to start earlier as well. And the third reason is, if you're a foreign exam taker, if you're coming from a foreign jurisdiction outside of the United States, you may want to start earlier and really getting the fundamentals down. You're not taught a lot of the basic fundamentals of law school in your country, so you want to get the fundamentals down. And if you're taking a bar prep program, they're going to start assuming you already know what the fundamentals are. They're going to assume you took 3 years of law school here, so they're going to launch you from that point. So you want to get the fundamentals down beforehand. So if you're going to start studying earlier, maybe spend your time doing that, okay? But generally speaking, for most students, it's just not necessary. 6 to 7 weeks typically is plenty of time, even in the tougher jurisdictions, okay? The second thing is, you may risk developing poor habits. You know, if you're taking a bar exam prep program, they're going to tell you how to study. They're going to tell you how to approach the MBEs, how to approach the essays, how to approach the PTs. If you start going down that on your own, you may develop poor methods, poor habits in the way you approach that. And since the bar exam is new for you probably, or maybe even if you're a repeater, you don't want to have to try something on your own, then unlearn what you did, and then relearn the way they want to teach it. You know, the bar exam prep program should be your coach, should be your advisor, and just let them tell you how to go about it. Don't try to do things, outside the scope of it. They've probably been doing it for a while. They probably have a good system in place. Generally speaking, try to follow what system that they're giving you. If you start too early, you're going to develop poor habits in the way you approach everything, the way you study, and then you're going to have to unlearn that, and that's just going to take more time and cause more stress, okay? The third thing is, well, bar prep programs don't start early. Most bar prep programs will start about 6 or 7 weeks out. Some of the bar prep programs you can choose to start earlier if that's what you wish. A lot of them don't, but in one of the videos that I do, which bar exam prep program should I take video, I go into kind of the details of bar prep programs and which let you start earlier and which don't. But generally speaking, they'll start about 6 or 7 weeks out. So if they're not even telling you to start earlier, then why are you starting earlier? You're just going to spend more time, cause more stress, cause more headache. Again, I'm speaking generally here, but generally follow what the bar prep program is telling you to do. The fourth thing is, you might freak out. I remember when I got my material, I took Barbary, when I took the bar, I got my materials from Barbary, and I remember opening up some of the essays to kind of just see how it goes and see what it looks like, and I flipped out because the essays were so different than what I learned in law school, and it really psychologically kind of hit me a little bit to think like, oh man, this thing is going to be tougher than even what I thought it was going to be. It's not necessarily the case. You just got to know kind of how to look at the materials. But that's a very real possibility that if you start earlier, you might start to freak out in your mind and then you lose the mental game. The bar exam, for people who've been through it, will tell you it's very much a mental game as much as anything else. So you don't want to lose the mental game. So again, it's better to have a mentor or a coach with you throughout the process there as well. Okay? Number 5 is you might forget the early stuff. You might forget the early stuff. You know, if you're starting to spend 3-4 months ahead of time studying, you're going to have to go back and relearn that stuff because, you know, you're not going to remember on bar exam day what you studied 3 or 4 months ago. So you're going to have to go back over it again and probably again, even more so than you would even if you're just studying for 6 or 7 weeks out. So that's another big risk again as well. So again, if you're spending an extra month or 2 and you're going to have to relearn whatever it is you're studying there as well, you know, what's the point? You're kind of wasting time. You're taking up too much time studying that stuff. Okay? Number 6. You might run out of gas. You know, the bar exam is a marathon. It's not a sprint. A lot of people, even that 6 and 7 week period, they tend to run out of steam. They tend to lose energy. If you're starting even earlier than that, you know, you gotta extend mentally for that extra few months, and that could be a big drain. That could be a big concern. Bar exam requires a lot of intense mental focus during that time period. It's got to be very focused on what it is that you're doing, and it can be mentally draining. So if you're starting even earlier than that, then you're just draining yourself even more. So these are generally the reasons why I don't recommend you start the actual studying process more than 6 or 7 weeks out. Now, since I don't recommend that, but let's say you do want to get started. Let's say you got some extra time and you want to get started and you're not sure what to do. What I really recommend is 2 things. One is go learn about the bar exam process. Go do some research, read some blogs online. I highly recommend you get my book, The 7 Steps to Bar Exam Success. It's helped a lot of people, and it just gives you a general overview of the bar exam so you can kind of see what is it like, what's it like going into the bar, what should I be aware of, what are some of the myths and things like that I don't need to, what are the things that I don't need to focus on that I thought I did. Just get a general overbroad view of the bar exam, and that's going to help a lot with your psychology and your strategy as you go in. The second thing is to get your mindset right. A lot of people deal with the stress and the anxiety during the bar. There's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of self-doubt that could arise as well. So really try to get your mindset right. I highly recommend doing different meditation work, visualization, affirmations. Getting your mindset squared and focused before you hit the actual strategy, I think will help out as well for your bar exam. You know, I have a beautiful program. It's called the Bar Exam Mental Edge. You know, there's a link to it below. It does a great job in helping you get the psychology of the bar exam so you don't get drained, you don't get overwhelmed, and you don't get overly stressed throughout the bar exam. A lot of people throughout their bar prep, it's not so much the material that is their downfall, it's the anxiety, it's the mindset, it's the mental game that causes their downfall either during bar prep where they get overwhelmed and just break down, or during bar exam week where they just, you know, blank out or they freak out or they're not able to contain and control their emotions. So those are the 2 things I really recommend if you're going to spend some time early. Get your mindset right and get a general overbroad view of how the bar exam is going to go. Okay? So again, I don't really recommend you start studying early unless you fit one of those 3 exceptions, either a disability, foreign taker, or you're working. And just focus on the mindset and also the tactics for the bar and get the overbroad view. All right? So thanks so much for listening. Right now, head on over to ipassmybarexam.com/12 keys, the number 1, the number 2 keys, and get your free report, the 12 keys to bar exam success. It's a free download, something I created just for you. So head on over to ipassmybarexam.com/12 keys and download it now. In the meantime, go out there and get them this week, and always remember that your name appears on the pass list.